Tazewell, kind of an athletic quarterback and basically a stable of running backs, but everybody on this team is basically a sophomore.
Oh, yeah. It's a very young team, and that scares you a little bit because you don't know what they're going to bring to the table. This may be the night that they snap, and then all of a sudden it comes together for them. And we'll talk about that later on in some of my keys to the game. I don't think you can get complacent. Going back to what I just said, don't ever be happy with a loss, even if it is the Tennessee High in a game that you should have got blown out in. Don't be happy. Don't get complacent. Let's get better. And we got to do it on a short week now, so let's get better, or this Wise Central team could sneak up and get a win on us.
You're talking about a team looking into the future that can make some noise down the line, a team that has that many sophomores starting and freshmen starting that Wise Central has. Of course, we'll get to that here in a little later into the countdown to kickoff. But tonight's coverage of Virginia High football on Bearcat Radio is brought to you by Sesco Group Insurance. For your insurance needs, go with Sesco. State Line Motors on Euclid Avenue in Bristol. State Farm Insurance Agent Barbara Williams. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. BSN Sports, the nation's largest sporting goods distributor. And Drake's Come Play. So those are the sponsors for tonight's game, as well as Moe's Southwest Grill. So we have Inside the Huddle. We had a chance to sit down and talk with head man for the Virginia High Bearcats, Mike Christ, before the game. Got his thoughts, and a couple of players. Aaron Rose and Dante Harris had to come out of the game for a little bit. Dante, I don't think, came back in last week. But we got the status on both those guys for tonight, so stay tuned for that. We'll have it coming up right now, and then when we get back, we'll have more. We'll talk about some games going on this Thursday night edition, and we got one big one tomorrow in Southwest Virginia. But here's Inside the Huddle, our talk with Coach Christ on the Countdown to Kickoff on Bearcat Radio. Welcome to Inside the Huddle. This is Dylan Hutton with Bearcat head coach Mike Christ. First off, Coach, thanks for sitting down with us.
Yes, thank you.
Coming off a hard-fought game against the Vikings, what were you happy with in last week's game, and what things needed to be addressed?
What's happened with our overall effort? I thought we had a chance. We could have laid down. We fell down. Then we pulled it back within 7. Just had too many turnovers, some missed executions on the backside of our defense, which kind of doomed us. I think we had some opportunities. I think we proved how good we can be when we do things the right way and play with some tempo and energy. But I was really proud of the kids. I know that's sometimes hard to say after a loss, but I really was. I thought they could have laid down any number of times, but they didn't. They came to compete, played with the right mindset. I was proud of them.
So despite the 4 interceptions, Jamie was sharp early in the ball game. How can he build off of last week?
I think he just needs to keep playing loose, playing free. I think that's what it was. And, anytime, we always want to pin an interception on the quarterback. But there's a number of things that can happen that create that, and they certainly weren't all on him. We had some miscommunications. We had some routes that certainly didn't hit their landmarks. So there was a number of reasons behind those 4 interceptions, and they weren't all on him. But, yes, he has to continue to play loose, play free, and then let it rip, but be a little more accurate at times.
Also, we saw him scramble a little bit more than we have all year. Was that part of the game?
I think he was just overall more aggressive a week ago, and I think that's the way the Jamie we knew was playing. But I thought he had been a little conservative, maybe pushing for perfection in those first 2 games. So we were kind of glad to see him relax and play a little bit of football.
A little bit more creative, the old Jamie from last year. So you had a couple guys get banged up last week, Dante Harris and Aaron Rose. What's their status for tonight?
They're good. They're good to go. Dante's probably 90%, and Aaron's probably 97%. So
exactly.
Yeah, we should be good to go. I think realistically, this is the healthiest we've been all year.
So that's always nice. Of course, you're getting those statistics from Randy Hodge, I guess.
That's right.
Long-time trainer. So after his 2-pick night at the Stone Castle, Austin Davidson has 3 interceptions in the last 2 ball games. How does he seemingly always be in the right place, and what does he bring to the team?
He's coachable. He's just a coachable kid. Knows how to play football. Has a nose for the football. Knack to make plays. Isn't he tough as nails back there in the return game? He's something else. So I think more than anything, he's just coachable, man. He just goes and plays football and has fun doing it.
And the calmness he has on some of the returns, he almost returns interceptions with the same mindset he has as a
Yeah. He is. He's kind of cool under pressure guy, ice water in his veins. He's the real deal when it comes to that.
So tonight's game got moved up a day due to the hurricane coming through, and has that made any effect on this week in preparation?
I hope not. You always think you need that full week of preparation to go through the process. But when Brad and I talked Monday, forecast, it was kind of trending that we needed to play Thursday. As it's turned out, it looks like it's going to be beautiful tomorrow too. But nonetheless, we should be ready. We don't have a choice. It's time to step up and be ready whenever you have to.
Plus, you gain an extra day going into the bye week, right?
Yes, we do.
With Wise Central coming in tonight, what are some things that look out for their offense, and who stands out on film for those guys?
I think overall they're pretty young, but I think they are very aggressive up front offensively, and I think the quarterback, when he has time, he can make some plays. He's a good scrambler, can make some plays with his feet. Additionally, I think he can throw the ball a long ways down the field. So we got to be disciplined. I'd like to think we have a little physical advantage in some places, and we need to take advantage of that.
So it seems like an early homecoming tonight, just the second home game. But is there any sort of difference in that aspect? I know you kind of.
No, I hope it's an experienced group. I haven't noticed necessarily a difference, but you always get some distractions with homecoming and some halftime festivities that some guys are involved in and so forth. So that's part of the high school experience. So we'll embrace that no matter what our standing is at halftime, and commit to that, and do things the right way as far as that goes. But reality is our show is from 7 to the first half ends, and then pick it back up 20 minutes later. That's what we got to be about tonight.
Coach, thank you for joining us.
Hey, thank you.
Countdown to Kickoff continues next on Bearcat Radio.
Listen to Virginia High School football on your computer or mobile device at Spreaker.com/Bearcat Radio. You're listening to the best high school football in the Tri-Cities on the Bearcat Sports Radio Network.
Titans go!
When the Teen Titans go to the movies, they know the best way to travel is safely.
Hollywood, here we come!
And you know it's super. To keep your child safe, be sure to use the right car seat for their age and size.
Exactly.
We're finally on the big screen.
Have a seat, my dude. For more information on finding the right seat, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Gotcha. That's a wise move.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Bearcat Radio is brought to you by State Line Motors. Visit State Line Motors on Euclid Avenue in Bristol.
Welcome back to the Sesco Group Insurance Countdown to Kickoff from the Gene Malcolm Stadium in Bristol, Virginia. Again, Dylan Hutton along with Travis DeBusk and our statistician, who is about to get busy here in a few minutes as we have kickoff coming up in a moment. Bearcats getting ready to face off with the Wise Central Warriors, the second all-time meeting between those two teams. Right now the Wise Central cheerleaders out cheering in front of the Virginia High student section. I don't know how well that's going to go over, but they're out there nonetheless. So, Travis, time to talk a little bit about the results from last week, just the district games, the Southwest District. So,
Graham picked up the win last week over Giles County, 28-13. Lebanon, that struggle of the season continues for them. They lost to Grundy, 43-14. This score here was kind of a surprise to me. The George Wythe Rocky Maroons, 48-7 over the Marion Scarlet Hurricane. And here's another shocker. What about Tazewell taking on the team from Riverview, West Virginia? That game was close for a while, and then Tazewell, wins it by a blowout in a high-scoring affair there, 61-38 over Riverview. Richlands had the week off. That gets them prepared for a big game that they've got coming up tonight.
Yeah, that had them pretty well prepared. They've got another game tonight. They play over near Blacksburg, right? So we'll get to that in a moment. But Southwest District standings as of today, Virginia High tied for first with Graham at 1-0, 2-1. Both those teams 2-1 overall. And tied for third, Richlands and Marion. They haven't played a game yet. Richlands 1-1 on the year. Marion 1-2. Marion enjoying a bye week tonight. Lebanon is 0-3 on the year, 0-0 in the Southwest District, and Tazewell 0-2, but 1-2 after that win, as Travis said, over Riverview on Friday night last week. So it's been a short week, but we'll see how the teams play, as every game basically tonight has been moved up except for Union and Ridgeview, and we're going to talk about that right now. We have Richlands kicking off tonight against Blacksburg. Richlands, again, 1-1 on the year, playing yet another non-district game. Could be a fun one over there.
Yeah, that should be a good matchup for them. I believe, well, for what we go with, I'm going to give Richlands a little bit of an edge in that game just because we know what they are. We're not too familiar with Blacksburg. It's still a little bit out of our reach at this point in the season. Of course, as we get in on the backside of our bye next week, we'll start to look at some of those state rankings and matchups as we get starting to think about playoff time. But I'm going to go with Richlands, I believe, in that game.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one. John Battle at Lebanon. That's the only other Southwest District team that's playing Lebanon, as it's a battle of 1-2. John Battle against 0-3 Lebanon. That's tonight over there at Lebanon. Marion, Tazewell, and Graham are enjoying bye weeks as the band is getting lined up in that V formation as the Cats are getting set to come out of that left tunnel to our left in that far end zone. Non-Southwest District games of interest. There's some really juicy matchups this week.
Yeah, Patrick Henry and Twin Springs, and for all intents and purposes, that shouldn't be too close of a ball game. But one we want to look at, another one going on tonight, George with Rocky Maroons travel to take on the Chilhowie. They're taking on a team of Warriors tonight, just like us. They're traveling to Chilhowie. That should be a big game up there in Smith County.
And then Union 3-0 at Ridgeview 3-0. And the other game, Christiansburg at Abingdon. So the Union-Ridgeview game is tomorrow. We're going to have the national anthem coming up here in just a second. And we'll try to get down there to the field for that once we get to it. But right now, again, know your opponent. Wise Central coming in at 1-0, 0-1 in the Mountain 7 District. They're coming off a 2-8 season a year ago. Head coach Luke Owens in his 5th year. He's been at Wise Central since 2014, 17-27 overall. And he's a 3-time state wrestling champion. We'll talk about that closer to kickoff, though. So their football coach, definitely a great athlete. Wise Central was consolidated in 2011 from J.J. Kelly and Pound. 64 miles from Virginia High School. They traveled an hour and 19 minutes to get here to Gene Malcolm, and we're getting ever closer to kickoff as we'll go down to the field for the national anthem.
Excellent job there as we honor America here on a Thursday night edition of Virginia High School Bearcat football. Getting back to some of that Wise County Central Warriors information. Last year they went 2-8. They won their first 2 games of the season, and then they lost out the rest of the way. They were devastated by injuries. They gave up 30 points or more in 7 games. In 4 of those games they gave up 40-plus. Now last year over there when we went over to Wise and took them on, they did rack up 390 total yards against the Bearcats, ran for 285, threw for 105 in a 31-14 Bearcat win. Of course, they graduated the man that accounted for most of those yards on the ground. Jarrett Jesse had 163 rushing yards in that game.
Also, the brother to Isaiah McAmus, who's going to be the starting quarterback tonight. His brother Dalton was the quarterback last year. He got injured in the first quarter of that game. It might have been a totally different ball game. They hung in for a long time. They're coming off a loss to Ridgeview, as I said, 54-0. That was their third time being shut out in the last 6 games. Of course, we've got to put that into consideration. They played Union and Ridgeview in those last 6 last year. dating back to last season. So roster includes 8 seniors, 12 returning starters from a year ago, but you see a lot of sophomores and freshmen. So that's the even better news.